Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and we found our starting left guard. Remember, we released Ereck Flowers yesterday to save $10 million. The numbers still aren't out yet for Andrew Norwell, former Jaguar, former Panthers, and we have connections for both. Remember, our director of pro personnel, Chris Polian, came from the Jaguars just a couple of years ago, and of course, all of the Panthers connections. I mean, I don't even have to expound upon that. But we have signed Andrew Norwell, and I'm assuming it has to be for less per year than what Ereck Flowers was making, which again, we cut him to save $10 million worth of cap space. So I'm just assuming Andrew Norwell is somewhere sub 10 million. We had somewhere around like $26 million worth of cap space before this signing, so we'll see how much we have left afterwards, because I'm excited to see if we're still targeting Tyrann Mathieu. That would be an excellent signing because you can have all kinds of versatility in the back end with Kendall Fuller, Bobby McCain, Cameron Curl, and Tyrann Mathieu. All of those guys play 3 or more positions in the secondary. Slot, outside corner, free safety, strong safety, buffalo nickel, everywhere. You know how confusing it will be for opposing quarterbacks trying to figure out what coverages we're in if we add Tyrann Mathieu? They won't know what's going on. And of course, my preference, Bobby Wagner is still out there. I believe AJ Johnson is still available from Detroit. So we have the cap space to go get a guy if we really want to. And remember, Landon Collins still technically hasn't come off the books yet, from what I believe, because he's a post-June 1st cut. So since we're projected to spend about like $5 million on our 2022 draft class, you can get that money plus more after we release Landon Collins in June. But as of right now, what's most important is that we have around $26 million of cap space before this Andrew Norwell signing. We'll see where that takes us and what moves we can make. But we're about to dive into everything, especially who Andrew Norwell is, where he came from, how good is he? Is he an upgrade over Ereck Flowers, and in what ways? Is he a downgrade? Of course, we got to talk about all of that and more. Also, some interesting stats on JD McKissic's contract situation, like the way it's structured and how much money we save, how he pretty much takes up no cap space this year. It's crazy. Excellent signing, man. Excellent way to finesse that situation. To get him back and he's barely going against the cap this season is crazy. They pulled the void years finesse. But this Andrew Norwell signing was on the way. We all could pretty much tell that we were going to get Andrew Norwell. He was still like the only really good guard left on the market. Maybe him and like a other couple of names, but Andrew Norwell, you could definitely argue, was the best guard available after Laken Tomlinson and Mark Lewinsky got signed away to different teams. So I mean, this was just in the making. Again, the connections from the Jaguars and the Panthers, like Ron Rivera literally drafted this guy, him and Marty Hurney. I mean, the connections were just so clear, it was just bound to happen. But again, we may see some more dominoes fall into place now that we were able to get a lot of our guys back, and now we replaced Ereck Flowers after we created some cap space releasing them. We may be on the verge of getting a big signing. Don't want to get too excited, but they're not creating this crazy cap space and doing what they gotta do, and it almost seems like they're panicking releasing people. I mean, they couldn't get no trade value for Ereck Flowers and Matt Ioannidis. You could have signed Andrew Norwell just by releasing Ereck Flowers. Releasing Matt Ioannidis shows me that they're trying to do something. Either it's a Terry McLaurin extension or they're going for a big name out there. Again, Tyrann Mathieu, Bobby Wagner, or one of those guys. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Like I said, man, stay tuned. I got y'all with all of the content, any updates, anything little, anything small, anything big. I got y'all. I'm still working on my Carson Wentz film session and how he'll take the Scott Turner offense to the next level. You'll be on the lookout for all content, man, and I'll probably run a live stream this evening / tonight now that we've actually gone out there and signed a guy from a different team, and then we can catch up on everything that's going down as far as bringing back the guys that we brought back and losing the guys that we lost. So be on the lookout for all of that, and without further ado, let's get it. So Ian Rappaport was the first to come out and say it. The Washington Commanders are expected to sign former Jaguars and Panthers guard Andrew Norwell. Source said they're close on the deal. He feels a big void in the offensive line. So this goes to show that they don't necessarily believe in Sadiq Charles enough for him to start at left guard. Based off of the little bit he played last season and the slight flashes, even though he had some bad moments, but you saw some potential in there, some room for optimism to where they're comfortable with him being our backup swing guard. So if he has to fill in at left guard, right guard, whatever, they feel confident they have that guy, because Tyler Larson is technically our backup center. So that sounds like that's going to be our offensive line right there. And that's actually a really nice veteran offensive line. I mean, granted, going from Brandon Sheriff to Wes Schweitzer isn't ideal, but if you look at Pro Football Focus, they felt like Wes Schweitzer was a better offensive lineman last year. They felt like Wes Schweitzer was the 9th best guard in the NFL last year. They felt like Brandon Sheriff was the 13th and Ereck Flowers the 17th, just for reference. So apparently we kept the best guard out of the 3 that we had, according to Pro Football Focus, of course. So you got to take that with a slight grain of salt. But it's not like we're taking a huge step back going from Brandon Sheriff and Ereck Flowers to Wes Schweitzer and Andrew Norwell. We had a top 5 offensive line last year. I'm expecting it to at least still be top 10. I mean, John Matsko is going to get the most out of all of these guys, but this is a nice veteran offensive line too. Charles Leno's 30 years old, Andrew Norwell is 30 years old, Chase Roulier's 28, Wes Schweitzer's 28, and then you just only have Samuel Cosme, who's 23, who you could argue was probably going to end up being our best offensive lineman at the end of the day, especially run blocking wise. And it's really weird too, because we're going to dive into Andrew Norwell specifically, what are his weaknesses and strengths. But right now, our offensive line is really strong in the run game. Chase Roulier is a top run blocking center. He's also pretty good in pass blocking, but his calling is run blocking. Same thing with Wes Schweitzer. Wes Schweitzer had a 66 pass blocking grade from Pro Football Focus this past year. He had an 85.6 run blocking grade, which was like top 10 in the NFL. And then of course Samuel Cosme, y'all know he came right out the gate immediately, a great run blocker, a mauler. And he's just been steadily working on his pass blocking ability. And we saw before the injury that he started to improve in that mightily. Then when he came back from injury, he kind of took a step back, but I think he's going to develop into a really great all-around franchise right tackle. But like right now, our calling card on most of the offensive line is run blocking, except for that left side. Charles Leno is a better pass blocker than run blocker, and Andrew Norwell is the same thing, a better pass blocker than run blocker. So that right side of the offensive line is for running, that left side of the offensive line is for passing. I hope we identify that and plan accordingly. But man, we finally got our first outside the team signing. I'm not sure how people feel about Julio Jones. I would literally only take him if he's taking like a vet minimum, because I mean, you're only expected to get like 5 games out of him anyway. But the 5 games he'll play in, he should be a top receiver. It's not like he's really lost his burst and his speed. He just can't stay on the field. But again, with Julio Jones, man, I'm good unless he's taking a vet minimum. Like, I'm not paying that man even $5 million a year just for him to play 5 games, if that. Especially with how deep this receiver class is. Like, I wouldn't even hurt myself with that. But as far as a direct replacement to Ereck Flowers, I mean, it's really interesting that both of them are way better pass blockers than they are run blockers. But when Andrew Norwell was at his best, like 2017, when he was first team All-Pro, he was a better pass blocker than Ereck Flowers. But from this past season, you could argue Ereck Flowers was the better pass blocker, but both of their run blocking is alright. It's not their calling card. Pretty much the same thing as last year. Run to the right and the strength of your pass blocking being the left side. It's pretty much the same thing. And they were able to put together a top 5 offensive line with that formula, with that recipe. So see how it goes. And also you could argue that Andrew Norwell is better in the screen game than Ereck Flowers, but let's go look at Andrew Norwell and his history. First of all, last season, Pro Football Focus had him graded as the 42nd best guard in the NFL. That's not really good, with a 73.5 pass block grade and a 62.7 run block grade. But I think once he's around a better cast of offensive linemen around him, he has John Matsko as his offensive lines coach, I think we're going to get the best out of him. He may not be his 2017 All-Pro self, but who knows? He's only 30. It's not like he's 35 and falling off a cliff. You can still argue he may be in his prime. Think in a better situation, he should be straight, because 2017 was crazy. He had a 92.1 pass block grade, still only a 65.5 run block grade, so we already know, again, just run to the right. Even when Andrew Norwell was at his best, he was still only an alright, slightly above average run blocker. But his pass blocking, when he was at his best, 2017, a 92.1 grade from Pro Football Focus, and the film backs it up. He had his best run blocking season, according to Pro Football Focus, in 2015. Either way, his best years were in Carolina. He went to the Jaguars, less talented offensive line. Guess he could just never gain appropriate chemistry with the guys, and it just never worked out. Because it does matter who you have around you. Like when you're a left guard, the guy who's at left tackle and the guy at center, and the communication between the two and the chemistry, knowing who to pick up and who not to pick up as far as blitzes go and all of that type of stuff. When defensive linemen are doing stunts, it's a really big mental thing. If you don't have chemistry with the guys around you, it could definitely affect your play. So again, I think we're going to get the best out of Andrew Norwell. I mean, first of all, most notably, John Matsko, offensive lines coach. I think that alone is enough to have optimism that we'll get Andrew Norwell closer to his 2017 self than his 2020 self with the Jaguars. His best years were when he was in Carolina under Ron Rivera, Marty Hurney, and John Matsko. And that may have been enough to convince Andrew Norwell to come here, especially for a cheaper deal than he probably asked from another team. The guy that got him right, that made him an all-pro, John Matsko, will be his offensive lines coach again. That's definitely significant. I mean, the team that took a chance on you, that turned you from an undrafted prospect to an all-pro within 3 years, I'm pretty sure he couldn't wait to get back to his old staff. Now, granted, they're not in Carolina anymore, but they're pretty much all together in DC. So I'm very optimistic about this move. Again, if he costs less than Ereck Flowers, if we save any money from this, I think it's a big win. I think this completely made sense. Even when Ereck Flowers was here, I wanted Andrew Norwell, but now that Ereck Flowers is gone, you have a more volatile Ereck Flowers. Ereck Flowers, you could definitely argue is going to be more consistent year to year. You know what you're getting. But Andrew Norwell at his best is better than Ereck Flowers, but these past couple of years he hasn't been as good as Ereck Flowers. But again, we have the coaching staff to get that 2017 version out of him. So I'm excited. I think this is going to be great. I think this is an excellent signing. Oh, one big, really important update that I'm seeing about the Andrew Norwell situation is that it's been confirmed in the official free agency press release that Andrew Norwell is not eligible to become a compensatory free agent. So that's relevant for the Commanders, as they may try to protect the third round 2023 comp pick for the departure of Brandon Sheriff. This is because Norwell was scheduled to be under contract for 2022, but the Jaguars agreed to shorten the contract in exchange for a pay cut for 2021. Shortening contracts makes the player ineligible to generate compensatory picks for his former team. So basically, getting Andrew Norwell does not stop us from getting our third round compensatory pick for losing Brandon Sheriff and Ereck Flowers. Ereck Flowers is probably going to generate somewhat of a pretty good compensatory pick somewhere, maybe like a fourth or a fifth, maybe not a third. Depending on what contract Matt Ioannidis gets, he may be added to the compensatory pick formula. So hey man, things are definitely looking up, especially for the 2023 draft. Again, Andrew Norwell should not cancel out any of the compensatory picks we were going to get for any of the guys we've lost, including Brandon Sheriff, Ereck Flowers, and maybe even potentially Matt Ioannidis. And then before we go, just wanted to talk about this J.D. Mckissic situation. J.D. Mckissic's contract situation is really interesting. It has been reported by Albert Breer that the Commanders running back J.D. Mckissic's 2-year, $7 million deal has 3 void years tacked on. So this means that J.D. Mckissic's 2022 cap hit will basically be just about nothing. So it's crazy that we brought back J.D. Mckissic and he's not going to really cost us anything this year. It looks like we're doing everything that we can to keep cap space. So we have to be going after a guy. You don't even waste your time doing those 3 voidable years on a 2-year deal for J.D. Mckissic, who's not even going to cost that much in the first place. He was supposed to get a 2-year, $7 million deal, which is $3.5 a year. So for you to finesse that contract and put those 3 voidable years in it so that he doesn't eat up any cap space in 2022, that means that you're really trying to get somebody. I don't know who this somebody is. Again, I hope it's Bobby Wagner or Tyrann Mathieu, but it's somebody. And so his voidable years are 2024 through 2026. Again, that's like a confusing situation. I don't know how they're finessing that, but hey, I'll take it. It really sounds like we're loading up to go get somebody. I mean, we're estimated before this Andrew Norwell signing, like I already said, to have around $27 million worth of cap space. You release Ereck Flowers for $10 million to replace him with Andrew Norwell, so I'm assuming his deal will be less than $20 million, which at worst leaves us with like $17 million worth of cap space at worst. If we're only saving $1 million from going from Ereck Flowers to Andrew Norwell, which I doubt, I think they're going to save more money than that, because you don't risk getting rid of arguably your most consistent offensive lineman last year. Even though Andrew Norwell is a really good signing, you don't do that with just like a very slim amount of savings. Then again, maybe you do, because they're being really petty, and the fact that they even did that to J.D. Mckissic's contract shows that they're trying to save every little penny. But I don't know. I think we should have somewhere at least at minimum $17 million worth of cap space left. And if we're talking about per year, that's definitely enough money to go get Bobby Wagner or Tyrann Mathieu. But again, I don't want to get too excited about that, because who knows if we're attached to any of those guys or if that's really what we're doing. We may just be focusing on trying to extend Terry McLaurin and or Daron Payne. So we'll see how all of this goes, but there's definitely a reason they did all of that craziness to J.D. Mckissic's contract. There is a reason his contract has those 3 voidable years. That's not by accident. That is a deliberate attempt to keep cap space to get something done. So hopefully we'll find out within the next 24 hours, hopefully before I do my live stream this evening, but we'll see. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please like it if you liked it, if you learned anything. As always, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Definitely shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Definitely get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about the Andrew Norwell situation, how much money you think we're giving them. Of course, I'm gonna update y'all on how much money we're officially giving them when it comes out, and also how do you feel about the JD Mckissic contract finesse. Do you feel like this is preparing us to get a big name in free agency, or is this just going to go towards re-signing Terry McLaurin and or Daron Payne? Definitely get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about all of that. I'm out.